Hi there, Cancer. This is your weekly reading for the week of November 23rd. I apologize that they're late, and I apologize for the confusion as to which channel these videos would end up on. So you probably have already noticed that the other channel, Rita Yanez, all 700 plus videos are missing. It has nothing to do with YouTube. It has nothing to do with any Google product whatsoever. They're great. They've helped me for years. Their developers are amazing. They're always very, very helpful. And even on their time off, they help people, creators like me and others. And so this was another tool that we'll be talking about next year that is going to be put out there for the intention of helping people make good choices, informed choices about the opportunities, or I should say air quote opportunities, that other people offer out there. We're going to make sure that you're educated, because as a YouTube creator, you know that your success depends on everything you do and what you put out there for your audience, which is very organic as it is. If they're watching you, it's because they like you. So with that said, these videos will now show up on Rita Yanez TV. This is a partnership effort, but of course, this is all directed at bringing free content to the free world. On Monday, the card that you've drawn is the King of Swords in reverse. So Cancer, this is an indication of someone who could be involved, but in your case, I think it might just be news of an action or a message that comes to you, not necessarily about an individual, but it could come through channels associated with what this guy's like. So with that said, the King of Swords can be, if he's a real guy, this can be an air sign. So it could be Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Doesn't have to be, might just have traits that you associate with the air sign individuals. If this is not their astrological association, it could be that this is a person who represents an authority figure that may have something to do with the law, the legal system, the courts, barrister, solicitor, attorney, lawyer. This could be a person who is even playing the advocate, which in the reverse could be the devil's advocate as well. But this communication could be somewhat forceful. And definitely when the King of Swords is in the reverse, we have to be very careful with him, because what he says could be intended to serve his own ends and not necessarily to be as fair as he appears. People with an eagle eye notice this guy right away, and this could be a very masculine woman, but this is the kind of information that is literally just a means to his end. So if you do have an entanglement that's related to something financial, a negotiation, a contract, employment, where you're not quite an employee, usually that's how we see this person representing. The information that brings across is about people that are subcontractors or working on a contract, or they're a full-time employee, but it's based on a contract that's renewed every period of time. The point is that this individual is not presenting something fair to you. And because you are more sensitive to the lunations than anyone else, being ruled by the moon, we do have this full moon in Gemini, and this is happening here today on the day that I'm recording these. And I honestly don't know what day it is. It's either the 25th or the 26th. I really don't want to know, actually. It would explain a lot if you knew why I don't want to know what time it is. I have to first decide what time zone I'm in. But anyway, this individual is communicating something that isn't fair. Now, this could represent the way you're coming across. So make sure to search yourself, your soul. Make sure that you're not the one who is saying things that may not be as honest as they should be, because you're trying to conduct the energy in a way to serve your own means to your own end. Okay, so keep that in mind. For some of you, it will be the way you're acting. Other people, especially if you're female, this could be a male. Of course, we have to keep those blurred gender lines into consideration, but remember that this is not a person who you'd mess with either, because in the same way that you don't know the way he's operating, he could stab you right in the back. So hopefully this isn't a situation that becomes contentious or cantankerous because you don't want to have to go to bat with the King of Swords. It isn't worth it. It's best to literally disarm and walk away. Tuesday, the card you've drawn is the Seven of Pentacles, and the seven here represents you feeling like you're putting in a whole lot of work and that you are hoping for a good return on whether it is your physical work, a contract, or whether it is related to the emotions that you feel that you've been putting in a lot of energy and maybe even money investing this into an individual, and that you're not sure if you're going to see a return for this, but you're hoping. Now, I want to say something in consideration of the financial aspect of where we could get emotionally involved with somebody and then money comes into play. This is what I feel like I need to tell you. If you can afford to give a gift to somebody and can do so out of the spirit of love and kindness, then you do that with full knowing that this is not necessarily something that you're expecting a return on an investment. Okay, not like that. If you can't afford to do things for somebody else and yet you feel pressed to, whether they're pressuring you or you're feeling like you have to be a certain type of provider, think twice about that again. Because again, if you can't afford to give either money or material possessions, gifts to somebody, if you're having to take away from yourself in a real way, and I could tell you something, I love gifts and I love receiving them. And there are plenty of people that know what kind of individual I am in that way, that I'm no longer 15 years old and feel subject to the idea. When I was a kid, I had a boyfriend who was giving me some very expensive gifts, and my mother said, be careful that he doesn't expect something in return. And I never really thought about it until I got older. As I got older, I realized what she meant. But I don't walk out there demanding people to give me gifts, although I like them. They're wonderful. I love giving gifts just the same. So keep that in mind. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're giving, and you're really not getting what you believe your return should be, even if it is an emotional investment that you're hoping to receive dividends on, be sure that you're not doing something and that you're not the one getting manipulated or played here, because that is on the table. And that doesn't mean it is going to happen to you, but it's a potential I have to make sense of, because some people could be at risk for this. So on Wednesday, when we have the full moon in Gemini here, that is your solar 12th house, and that is opposite Sagittarius, which is your solar 6th house. So there's a strong likelihood that this is going on in terms of work or service to another, or things that you do for another person that you felt you were doing in an outward way. And then you come to find out that because there's a full moon in your solar 12th house, that some new information comes to light, or you find out that, let's just say that it's the object of your affections and you've been lavishing them with gifts and doing nice things for them. And then you find out that they have a boyfriend and they were keeping you in the dark. Well, it becomes illuminated very quickly at this point. The Five of Wands could indicate either a real argument where people are saying words, to each other. And this could also be a physical altercation. I'd prefer to hear that you're playing cricket and that this is ping pong, and this is not, going to clean somebody's clock, but there is competition here. For some of you, I can imagine that this will translate into finding out, for example, a girlfriend has another boyfriend. You didn't know about it. You've been paying her rent or something, and then this individual has been reaping your dividends, if you know what I mean. And of course, I could go any gender direction here, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just throwing that out there for you to keep in mind. This also could be where you're having to basically step up to the plate to pitch for your own contract renewal in a work situation as it relates to either your continued employment or your wages. When, for example, let's say you work in construction or in a seasonal kind of industry, right? Where I know people in construction that go to different places. I've got a friend of mine that's actually building a $2 million home in California right now. Well, it's because here there is no building where I'm at right now. Everything kind of comes to a grinding halt when it gets cold. So that could be also where he could be utilizing this Five of Wands out there to beat the competition. He's really in demand too. I mean, like all around the country, he's known for these gorgeous custom homes. And so this friend of mine is out there doing this, and that's the way that this five could be interpreted as well, right? Where he comes out, he's not actually punching people. He's like 6'4", so he could punch people, but that's not the way he is. It just goes to show you that sometimes the way this card can represent the energy is that a person is going out there and is competing against other people to get the business. It didn't matter to him that he was getting up and going over to work on this other project. He's got them all in stages everywhere. So you see, it could be competitive and creative, and it could be actually fun and lively, and for him that's the way it's working out. So it's not going to be for all of you that you're having difficulty or you're scraping by trying to get your boss to fess up as to why you don't have health insurance, or as to why the terms of your employment are not the same. This is also where we see people that are moving up in their profession, where maybe they've had to step up and be an interim CEO. A person steps up and steps into a temporary kind of position. I used to work with people that this would happen to all the time. We were in banking at the time, and so when the feds are coming in doing certain things, if one president resigned, before anything actually occurred, then we'd have an interim. We had interim chairman and that kind of thing. So again, this could indicate this. Now, for those of you that have emotional relationships, and if that is where the focus is, you know where I'm going with this, right? So also, if you have a Cancer rising, this would apply to you in that way. But then again, you would know best if you really are a Cancer rising, because at this point, you probably figured out either through your birth time and your birth information, or through a chart rectification. That's a fun word, isn't it? Rectification. Never mind. So you probably have this information that will be more appropriate for you, what I'm saying here, especially if you already know that it is, for example, a relationship that there is a contentious feel about it. You might feel that you've been putting too much energy into it and you're not getting what you expected in return, which that's the way that relationships go sometimes, you guys. So we have to make very clear and conscious decisions when we're dating people to make sure that we understand who they are before we make too many commitments or go too far. All right. So I'm speaking from a place of experience. You guys know most of my stories. I won't bore you with one here because we've got a lot to talk about. So let's move along, shall we? Here on Thursday, we've got the Four of Swords in reverse. This is really a good sign. We have a couple of fours here that are giving me the idea that stability is an issue, and we'll define what kind of stability or the lack of it. For the Four of Swords on Thursday, considering what the astrology is like, it is time to get up and do something about your situation, but I really wouldn't necessarily get up and take action. I would look at this card from the perspective of the mental acuity that it represents. The swords always have to do with communication, mental acuity, agility. It could be the lack thereof on many levels, but this is a card that indicates that it's best to think things through, and to maybe plan or plot your next trajectory, but don't necessarily go talking about this with everyone in the world, and especially not at the Thanksgiving dinner table. The main issue that I have with this card for you guys is that, let me look at my notes here real quick. We've got Saturn at 7 Sagittarius squaring Neptune at 7 Pisces. So for you, Sagittarius is your solar 6th house, like I said. So that is where work, your health, your livelihood, the work that you do every day, or the thing that you do that brings you joy and real financial rewards for those of you that are still working, not necessarily retired. And for those of you that have investment accounts and you got that kind of money, of course, you're doing the work when you're studying or collaborating with your investor or your advisor, I should say, what you're going to do. So it still has the same influence, but we have to think about when we're splitting hairs, exactly where are we splitting them. So this is pretty easy because Neptune at 7 Pisces is your solar 9th house. So there could be, again, this issue with contracts, negotiations. Now, if it is on the emotional level, there could be this matter of where these nodes have moved now into the axis of Virgo Pisces, that you're trying to communicate what you want from this relationship, and this person isn't even hearing you, or they've got a completely different idea or plan, or you realize, wow, this adjustment that the nodes changing into is talking to me about is not even what I really wanted. Now, on the work front, the reason why I think all of this needs a lot of contemplative time is that this is where we'd be dealing with those negotiations and contracts. Basically, now what are we doing with this? This is what you, in example, offered me, sold to me, this is a job I thought I was taking, and you said we'd get to the 8th house and we'd be talking about this contract and the guarantee and the promise of whatever. And then here we are now, dude, at the 9th house, and we're in Pisces. Neptune is going direct, and I realize you never intended on giving me any health care coverage, or I'm giving you scenarios that just come off the top of my head. You guaranteed that I was going to have health care for my family, and then you keep me in this status as a subcontractor so that you don't have to employ me full time and screw me over in the end. Now, these are things that you would have gotten some hints at long ago. For a lot of people, they're going to notice that back in 2007, something was up, so you have to look back and say, what was going on in 2007 that is reminiscent of or reminds me of? It doesn't have to be the same exact situation. In fact, you could have been going through a legal battle in 2007, and now you're not having a legal battle, but you're again feeling like, what the hell? And then you're trying to figure out what is it that you missed that you didn't understand was going to go a certain way, or you're like, yeah, I remember in 2007, I was involved in this legal problem, and now here we go. Damn it, it's 2015, and I remember that this stinks like and looks like and smells like the same duck I was beating on 2007. And so there's something to learn here, obviously, if you can pinpoint what that was, because this is where Neptune squaring Saturn, where this is, of course, not an aspect that is 100%, but this is, again, triggering the same kind of anxiety and the kind of fears and the kind of levels of denial that we mask our lives with in order to not see things realistically. So, my friend, the sooner you look at things realistically, the easier it's going to get to figure out exactly what it is that you need to adjust your thinking in. Of course, this is going to be a mental process. So, with that said, make your plans, plot your course, plot the trajectory, plan it out. Don't say anything to anybody at this time. It's not the week that we want to just start trouble, even if we're validated in it, because it's just not going to really go anywhere. This is a kind of energy that is nothing but adjustments here, and we're almost done with this month, so we might as well just get through it and get to that next damn new moon where we could at least get some more clarity on how we're going to implement the plan to move forward, how we're going to actually get through that trajectory so that we can effect the right return. Friday, we have the Four of Pentacles in reverse, and this is a card again with the four being stability and the lack thereof. So there could be a real issue with where you live, how you live. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm sick of living in a motel. Okay, well then you need to plan on how you're going to not live in a motel. Doesn't mean that you can find the solution overnight. It could be that you actually had to release some real property, a real estate matter, a lease, a loan, a thing, a property back to the bank, reverted, something such as this, that now you're going, oh shit, and here we go. It's going to be tax season. Where are we going to manage to, you and I, if we're exes, handle this 1099-M for this mortgage loan? Well, again, I'm going to tell you that this has something to do with 2007, something you should have known, something you should have done. I am not suggesting shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'm saying look at this damn thing, get it under control. If you need to hire an expert, get the expert. Don't do your own taxes. Don't let somebody else do the taxes for you. If you've got a real issue that's going to be a 9th house issue, and we know we've got adjustments here and something's going to move forward, that we have some reckoning and some reconciling to do, then take my advice. I promise you it is going to help you if you have a tax attorney represent you to get this thing under control. Looks like it's related to a real estate matter. It could be an 8th house issue. And so with that in mind, because we have a new moon coming up in Leo, it is going to send a signal over to the 8th house where we can now renegotiate something that might have to do with the damn IRS. And I like them. I like them. Nothing wrong with the IRS. People talk about nightmare stories. It really isn't. They're there to help you. But if you don't reach out and say, hey, I think I have a problem, if you don't reach out to them, they can't really reach out to you. They don't want to have a miserable job. It's not like a collection agency. This is an entity that is trying to work these things out. They get paid to do what they do, just like they went to school to do the thing that they get paid for. So remember, you get what you pay for, and if you get the right accountant, they'll be able to give you the best advice. Saturday, we've got the Sun card, and that's a very good sign for you, sweetheart, because you guys need a little bit of a break here. This is also telling me that you're going to find the silver lining in all of this. And even though I know you're thinking, yeah, Rita, you don't know. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have at least one person who I adore who is a Cancer rising. He knows who he is. And I love you. And he knows this. I don't want to say his name for a reason, but you know who I'm talking about. So in this case, I want you, sweetheart, right? I can't really say that, but that new moon is going to help you with, who is a Leo, and we'll talk about that. If you listen to this, and you know that I'm already working on it for you. But here with the sun, we've got a real sense of a silver lining where you're like, yes, I'm making it through now. I figured out what I need to do. I am not going to let this thing dominate. I'm not going to let this tax issue, this thing, this eighth house issue, which is going to be lit up here in just a number of days. I am going to work it until I get this under control. And you see that you will work, and everything else will be working out for you in that sense. Now on Sunday, we've got the Nine of Swords in reverse. Don't stress. This is a good card. So this shows us that now we're at the beginning of the end of this difficulty. Whatever it is, in the very least, now you can look at it and with full transparency and confidence know that this thing is going to resolve itself. But let me give you one final admonition. It will not resolve itself without your help. It can resolve itself, but you're the one who's going to have to push the buttons, pull the levers, and get this thing in motion. So this is an excellent signal for you, because that's something that you're actually good at doing once you put your mind to it. On the 30th, you've got a new moon in Leo. It will send a good beam over to your 8th house, solar 8th house, for those of you that are Cancer rising more strongly so than others, because then you already know what's on your ascendant and the descendant. And in this case, you'll see that things will begin to work themselves out. Keep the attitude positive, get the lessons under control, do like I do. I've made some massive, major, whopper mistakes in my life. They have caused so much serious complication that until I actually realized that there was farther I could fall down into the rabbit hole, I thought that I was at the bottom multiple times. Bullshit. I had a lot more to go. When I finally was like, thud, my butt on the ground at the bottom of this hole and was able to look up, that's when I was like, okay, so now that everything has happened, now I can begin to, if anything, crawl my way out of this nightmare. And I did. So if I can do it and get through some crazy things that I had to get through, you can do it too. And if anything, remember to use this moon for your own end. Okay, when you see this moon highlighting where the thing is that needs to be corrected, I'm not kidding you, take notes. You don't have to put anything into action this week anyway, but you'll see that you'll be able to put them into progress, actually get them going, and get those rusty wheels of momentum moving very soon there. So have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for your patience with these channel issues, and we'll see you again on Rita Yanez TV. Thanks.